Hello and welcome back to jQuery for designers. When you're creating the kind of effects that we're going to be creating throughout the rest of this course, you're going to be calling on and pointing to different content items on your page. In your jQuery code, you're going to be pointing to text blocks and divs. You're going to be pointing to images and things like that. And before we run our JavaScript code or our jQuery code, we need to make sure that those objects have finished loading first. So before we run any of our JavaScript, we need to make sure, again, that everything on the page has finished loading first. And jQuery provides us a very easy way to do this. So in order to illustrate how this works, I want to create a new folder here in our project files folder. So I'm just going to hit Shift-Command-N on a Mac to create a new folder, and I'm just going to call it Site01. We're going to be saving numerous versions of this site folder as we work through this course. For now, we'll just call this one Site01. I'll double click to go into it, but before I do, I want to copy this jQuery file here because we need to copy it into that folder. So we'll just copy that, double click on Site01 to go into that folder, and then I'm going to create a new folder inside this folder called JS for JavaScript, and then we'll double click on the JavaScript folder and paste that jQuery file. Then we'll go back to the main Site01 folder, and in this folder we'll create our HTML file. Now I'm using TextMate to edit my HTML in JavaScript, and with TextMate you can actually open up an entire folder at once. So I want to open up this entire Site01 folder in TextMate. So I'm going to go back to the project files folder, and I'm going to grab this Site01 folder here and drag it on top of my TextMate icon on my dock, and that will open up that entire folder in TextMate. And we can see the Site01 folder over here on the left, and we can expand the JS folder to see the JavaScript file inside it. In this Site01 folder, I'm going to right click on that, click on New File, and I'm going to call this new file index.html. So we'll create that file, it will open it up for us, and then once again I want to put our HTML5 doc type here, so doc type HTML, and then our opening HTML and closing HTML tags, and our opening head and closing head tags, and then our opening and closing body tags as well. So now that we're going to start using jQuery, we need to actually link to that jQuery. So inside the head of our document here, we're going to create a script tag, and instead of putting code inside the script tag, we're going to point to an external script file. So the way we do that is we type source, or src, equals, and then the URL of that file inside quotation marks. So it's located inside the JS folder, /, and then the name of the file is jQuery-1.10.2.min.js. So we'll type that out, or in TextMate here, we can actually do it very easily by putting our cursor in between the head tags there and then just dragging this JavaScript file there, and it creates that script tag for us. Now again, since we're using HTML5, JavaScript is assumed, so we don't need this type attribute here, so I'll just get rid of that. And we can get rid of this character set attribute as well, and just have the source and then our closing script tag after it with nothing in between. So that will include the jQuery file for us. And since we eventually want all of our JavaScript to be in external files anyway, let's go ahead and do that here. So I'm going to right click on the JavaScript folder and add a new file to it, and I'm going to call this new file site.js. So this will be the JavaScript specific to this site. And anytime you create a JavaScript file, you end it with the extension .js and click on create. So that opens up that site.js file over here, and here we don't need script tags inside the JavaScript file, we just need the JavaScript itself, but now we need to go back to index.html and create our script tag for that file. So after our jQuery script tag, we're going to create another script tag for site.js, so I'll just drag that onto the page here and it will create that script tag for us. And again, I want to get rid of the type and character set attributes there. And there we go. So now we are linking to both JavaScript files, and just to prove that it works, we'll go ahead and save our index.html file, go to our site.javascript file, and do the same thing we did in the last video. We're going to create a window alert. So window.alert, and then inside parentheses, inside quotation marks, we're going to type, here is some text, and then a semicolon at the end of that statement. So we'll save the JavaScript file, and I'm going to open up index.html in Chrome, and we'll see that our JavaScript pop-up is working just fine. Here's some text. So even though we've included that in a separate file, we're making it work by including this script tag in our HTML document. So now all of our JavaScript we can put inside this site.js file. So again, as we mentioned before, when we initially load our page, we want to wait till all of the elements on our page, all of our content has finished loading before we start running JavaScript. And we can do that in jQuery very easily. And the way we do that is we type a $, and this is going to be I'm going to show you the longhand way first, and then I'll show you the shorthand way of doing it. So we'll put a $, and then inside parentheses, we're going to point to the document itself. Then after the closing parenthesis, notice there's no space there. After the closing parenthesis, we'll type .ready, and then ideally ready is a function. So you would have opening and closing parentheses, but inside the parentheses for that ready function, it's expecting a call to another function, and this is going to be an unnamed function. So we're just going to put our cursor in between the opening and closing parentheses there, skip a couple lines, and then inside the parentheses, we're going to point to a new function. And what we're doing here is we're creating a new function. So we've got our opening and closing curly brackets there, and then we can just bring this up so that our closing parenthesis is right after that closing curly bracket. And then all of our jQuery code would be put inside this document ready function. And by doing it this way, we're assuring that all of our document elements, all of our content elements are finished loading before we start running all of this code. Because if you try to point to an element that hasn't loaded yet, it's obviously not going to work. So that's the longhand way of doing it. Let me show you the shorthand way. So I'm going to get rid of all of this, and we're going to start over with the shorthand. The shorthand in jQuery is we type a $, opening parentheses, just like we did before, and instead of typing document.ready, we simply type function, and then our opening and closing parentheses for that function, and then our opening and closing curly brackets. So we're going to move our closing curly bracket down a couple of lines, and then after our closing parenthesis here, we're going to put a semicolon. So this does the exact same thing as our document ready function call. Instead, we're just using a shorthand, and again, this will achieve the exact same effect. So anytime we're using our jQuery, we want to make sure that we include our jQuery code inside this document ready function. Again, just to make sure that all of our content loads before we start actually running this code. So we'll just save that file and we'll move on to the next video.